Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. I'm Robert McNeely. Soon, Senator Ted Cruz will hold a press conference regarding school choice, further legislation, perhaps some work in conjunction with President Trump's executive order several weeks ago regarding the beginning of the end of the Department of Education led by Linda McMahon. Of course, it's come with controversy, but this cabinet goes full force right there where everyone won't. This was the vision of President Ronald Reagan, which he could not get done. As great of a leader as he was, President Trump fulfilling that mission, because we know No Child Left Behind was an absolute disaster. And many of us went through our schooling, our education during that process. That was the bulk of my middle school and high school years. And I saw how much of a disaster that was for the prairie state of Illinois, with standardized testing being the same really across all 50 states. We elect school boards and we elect local jurisdictions in order to make those decisions, because parents and teachers who are closest to the students on the ground have a much better way of determining what's best and suitable for their students, rather than a big bloated bureaucracy led by, this was Ted Kennedy's vision, signed into law by President George W. Bush. And both men were flat wrong on public education. So we'll see what the good Senator Ted Cruz has to say about that. We know that Representative Jim Jordan will be in attendance, as well as some other great patriots. But this entire week, celebrating 250 years of our Army, our military. If you caught some of the great coverage, not only this morning from my esteemed colleague Matthew Alvarez, and even earlier days prior, President Trump visiting Fort Bragg in North Carolina for that amazing military display. This will all culminate into Saturday, as we will happily bring to you a military parade in Washington, D.C. The federal city will be on full display, celebrating the great successes of 250 years of our Army. And we have some new and exciting video to show you of those celebrations ready for action. Our beautiful big military on display for you.
The life of a soldier is not just a job, it's a calling and a sacred tradition passed down from father to son, brother to sister, and one generation to the next. At every hour of danger, our noblest citizens have answered that call. Time and again, our enemies have learned that if you dare to threaten the American people, American soldier will chase you down, crush you, and cast you into oblivion. The last sound you ever hear will be the chilling howl of Black Hawks, thunderous boom of artillery fire, the ferocious roar of a U.S. Army infantry brigade. For our adversaries, there's no greater fear than the United States Army. Now it's your duty to shield the flame of freedom that was first lit 250 years ago by the heroes of Concord Bridge and Bunker Hill. Standing before you today, I am more confident than ever that in the days ahead and every generation to come, the U.S. Army will heap glory upon glory. You will protect every inch of U.S. soil, and you will defend America to the ends of the earth.
This will defend, and our brave military doing that on a daily basis, an all-volunteer force that is, quite frankly, incredible. And we saw, as the YMCA song hit at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and the dance moves came out, that military went nuts for their commander-in-chief. It's great to see our military with such gratitude and really going in both directions because it takes the civilian leadership to respect what they do. We know they didn't receive that from Barack Hussein Obama. God knows the auto pen was not even there to even understand the sacrifice they make on a daily basis. But this president knows exactly what they do, can respect them, and gives them that proper salute. So exciting times as we go into Saturday to celebrate 250 years of the United States Army, the most brilliant fighting force in all of the world. Micron has announced massive chips investment, onshoring production. This is breaking news. Today, the Trump administration announced a $200 billion investment by Micron Technology, the sole U.S.-based manufacturer of advanced memory chips. Only the latest large-scale investment secured since President Donald Trump took office. The investment includes construction of a second chip fabrication facility in Boise, Idaho, and this modernizes its Manassas, Virginia facility. Onshoring production of its advanced DRAM technology from Taiwan for the first time and creating 90,000 direct and indirect jobs. It's all part of President Trump's commitment to revitalizing American manufacturing and establishing the country as the global leader in technology, particularly in artificial intelligence. Since President Trump took office, leading technology companies have pledged trillions of dollars in U.S.-based manufacturing and production. This includes Project Stargate, Apple, NVIDIA, IBM, TSMC, and others. It's another big win for American workers, national security, and leadership in the world. And the best is truly yet to come, as this one big, beautiful bill will truly supercharge the American economy. And maybe those holdouts today, there was another fake news report out there that Senator Rand Paul was disinvited from the congressional picnic that will take place tonight. We'll have primetime coverage as well, so stick with us all of this evening and afternoon right here on RSBN Live, which will become RSBN Primetime Live for you, the viewers. And I'm sure President Trump, as he mentioned earlier today in the East Room, after signing that beautiful bill in that signing ceremony to rid California of the EV mandates, he's within his constitutional purview to do that, mind you, saying that, of course, Rand Paul and his beautiful wife, Kelly, invited to the congressional picnic tonight, and they will probably have a couple of moments to discuss the one big, beautiful bill. And as President Trump said, I've always liked Rand. I got him elected a couple of times, and he's probably the biggest holdout vote, one of the toughest votes, at least on the Republican side, when it comes to the United States Senate. So I'm sure the two friends will have a great discussion tonight. And again, the one big, beautiful bill, this needs to pass. There is mandatory spending. There is discretionary spending involved. There is dialogue even amongst friends about how large this is. But at the end of the day, this is common sense legislation that House Speaker Mike Johnson got passed in reconciliation by 215 to 214. How narrow is that? That's why it's important to ramp up for 2026 and get more larger Republican majorities, as long as they fulfill the mandate you sent them to do with the 20 promises that became Republican National Committee pledges from the president himself to make America healthy again, to make America wealthy again, to make America strong again, ultimately safe again, and to make America great again. But the inflation report brought more welcome news this week that prices are down and supercharged with President Trump's one big, beautiful bill. Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent told Congress how the one big, beautiful bill, the largest tax cut in history, will boost the progress for middle-class Americans and the private sector without fueling inflation. The one big, beautiful bill will raise take-home pay between $7,800 and $13,300 for the average family of four. It will increase wages between $6,100 to $11,600 for the average worker. That's great news for the middle class. Not only does the one big, beautiful bill add $500 to the child tax credit, it makes permanent these big, beautiful tax credits for these young folks, including the new account setup for those born recently. So to give them a tax-free head start when it comes to a choice in schools, when it comes to a choice in the arts, when it comes to a choice in perhaps apprenticeships down the road, and with the emerging AI sector, imagine that. I think about the young ones in my family 20, 25 years down the road from now. As much advancement in technology that I've seen in roughly 37 years, God knows how those advancements will happen, especially with a Trump golden era economy. The One Big Beautiful Bill cements no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and tax cuts for seniors. Also making the 2017 tax cuts permanent. This will also provide individuals and businesses with certainty and build the economic momentum needed across the good old US of A. Really in turn as well, across the world, as President Trump said, he wants Iran to succeed. He mentioned it this morning, but the Ayatollahs, the mullahs, need to realize that their perverted theocracy and their ideology, their people don't even want that. They're longing for liberty, and they have an opportunity to win through trade and prosperity across the Middle East, and we're seeing that their influence is falling apart. And we pray for peace in the Middle East. It's something that we have to be on caution with and watch what will take place over the course of the next few days, because as President Trump was asked last night at the Kennedy Center, we'll watch what happens with potential preemptive strikes by the Israeli military against the Iranian theocracy that stands really against free people. And they should take a page out of what the Gulf states want to do and their neighbors. Peace and prosperity through economic trading, through letting people in their own nation ultimately decide what you should be able to do. Just like we have here, freedom, peace through liberty, strength in our constitutional foundations. Thank you to our sponsors on the right side of history. All Family Pharmacy. President Trump signed recently that executive order to bring down the cost of prescriptions for you and your family members. Now, online pharmacies like allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN leading the charge in getting that done for you, the good people and viewers at Right Side Broadcasting Network. So scan that QR code now. Use code RSBN20. That's RSBN20 for 20% off. Whether it's ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, methylene blue, those beautiful prescriptions that are essential, over 200 in fact, including the emergency medical kits and antibiotics that will save you and your family literally in a storm. Imagine for a second your pharmacy is closed down the street. There's no urgent care because a natural disaster happens. Remember what happened in Western North Carolina, Tennessee, right along here in Alabama and Georgia just a few months ago. And the way FEMA failed. It was a terrible thing, and many people still reeling from their loss of property and the loss of their homes. But thank God President Trump addressing that, as well as those Southern California wildfires. Those folks just recently got back into their home. Regardless, you should be prepared. Allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, your go-to and a great sponsor here on the right side of history. As we await Senator Ted Cruz to lead a press conference on school choice, scheduled for 2:30 Eastern. We'll bring that live to you as we continue to break down the One Big Beautiful Bill, making a massive difference for you, the American people, and the middle class. God willing, the Senate get to work and get this on President Trump's desk before the 4th of July. This legislation passed by the House will provide 100% expensing for new factories as well as existing factories that expand operations and support Made in America. The legislation will also provide the ability to buy a new American-made car and deduct the interest. This bill will also allow us to prevent our corporate revenues from being drained into foreign treasuries, and that is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. If the One Big Beautiful Bill does not pass, it would truly be cataclysmic. It would be the largest tax hike in history. It would be a disaster for businesses and for the middle class across our great nation. And for Americans looking to receive those great tax credits. So we would see increases in taxes of thousands of dollars on working Americans. We would see business contracts just go out the door. And we would also see a substantial increase in the unemployment rate. We don't want that to happen here in this great country. And as we enjoy this afternoon coverage, be sure to stick with us today, as yours truly will be debuting a show tonight along with Mr. Producer and Mr. Director, the voice of reason, with Robert McNeely at 5 o'clock Eastern. So dive in, see our pilot episode. We have a great presidential series for you, as well as subject matter experts touching on the issues that focus on you, the American people. What really does affect you in 2025, we'll dive into all of it, from politics to culture, music, and sports. Gosh, we know how President Trump enjoys his sports and enjoys music, as he enjoyed Les Mis last night. We'll have some more of that in depth starting tonight. Every Thursday evening, tune in the prime time, the voice of reason, starring yours truly, Robert McNeely. We're excited to bring that to you tonight, and stick with us right after that, as we'll be covering in the prime time a congressional picnic to be right there at the White House, as we await Senator Ted Cruz to hold a conference on school choice. We'll see what that entails today, because we know weeks ago President Trump signed that executive order to end the Department of Education, and with that, bringing school choice, states' rights. It makes sense. The 10th Amendment of this great, beautiful Constitution of ours that allows the states to govern in specific areas, because quite frankly, they do it better than the federal government. Now, of course, our securing of the borders, that's federal jurisdiction, the military, federal jurisdiction. But in certain situations like school choice, it needs to be at the local level. It's always done better at the local level. If you read the Federalist Papers, they discuss these core issues. And even as Thomas Jefferson said, you don't see it so much in the South and on the West Coast as you do in New England and the Midwest, but townships. Those are the most efficient forms of government because they are closest to the people. They are what matter most. When you have an issue with your tax assessment, especially property taxes, you can go down the street because your neighbor's the tax assessor. You can go knock on that door and discuss civilly and peacefully and patriotically, of course, why it's too high in your opinion and how that can be brought down. And if you don't like what that person is doing, hey, you can sign up right there and run for their job. That is the constitutional experiment. Our states, the laboratories of democracy, in order to come up with those big, beautiful ideas, and then in turn, a federal government that stays off of your back. And when's the last time the federal government really attempted to shrink itself? Perhaps Ronald Reagan, as he was a champion of liberty, of freedom, our foundation, and making this government work for you. We have not had a champion for liberty quite like him until the citizen president came down that golden escalator in that big, bold, beautiful building he built right there in Manhattan, New York City, the good old US of A. If you can't make it there, you can't make it anywhere. And President Trump showing us on a daily basis the beauty of his business prowess, his expertise, his acumen, and what he learned at the Wharton School of Business and what he learned from his extraordinary father in order to build a real estate empire, to build incredible things and skylines that have blessed New York City, specifically in Manhattan, and Chicago, around the world, Las Vegas, a premier hotel to enjoy all of your fun out on the West Coast. And I'm sure more and more abroad. Think about the Trump Triangle in Scotland with Turnberry, going down into the beautiful Green Isle of Ireland. It's a wonderful thing to think about as this gentleman put that all to the side, along with his family, in order to pursue serving this great nation. And that's something I reflect upon as he gives away his salary every quarter. He takes $1 Legally, he has to, and he joked around about it. If I gave all of it away, perhaps Congress would try to impeach me again, another fake impeachment. And think about all that in the last decade. Fake impeachments, you have assassination attempts, you have the lawfare that attempted to take him off the ballot, and no one else quite like Donald Trump to fight through it all for the American people. And with a comedian's touch on a daily basis, has that access to the media. He is always answering their questions on a daily basis. It's truly an extraordinary thing to watch as we break it all down for you on the right side of history, right here on RSBN. If you're just tuning in now, I'm Robert McNeely. It's always a joy to be with you as we have a whole afternoon and evening of unbridled access and coverage to your government right there in the federal city. And we'll be there for you on Saturday. Be sure to tune in the afternoon for a big, bold military parade to celebrate 250 years of the United States Army, dating back to 1775, when the Continental Congress appointed General George Washington to be the first really commander-in-chief against the United Kingdom, a military empire unrivaled at the time, but they lost, starting with April 1775, with Lexington and Concord, a group of militiamen and Minutemen who stood that bold test of time. Some of them veterans from the French and Indian War, but many of them have never seen conflict prior to that. They were simply peaceful farmers who said enough was enough, all led by the events that were taking place in Boston, Massachusetts, with a Tea Party, the original Tea Party, dating back to those early 1770s, when taxation without representation would not stand, where colonists came together, 13 separate colonies under British rule, and said, no, there are certain inalienable rights, and it dates back to Magna Carta in the 13th century. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. That freedom of speech stands in a constitutional republic, that you are due that ability to bear arms, that you have right to private property, that you can dialogue, that you are entitled to a speedy trial and a fair one of your peers. It stood the test of time for 250 years, and when that Constitution was finally approved on that scorching hot summer day in Philadelphia, PA, that gentleman asked Mr. Benjamin Franklin, Mr. Franklin, what did you give us for a government? And the brilliant statesman, inventor, philosopher, and one of the greatest writers in his time, Poor Richard's Almanac, really that first screen name, that first X account, if you will, before there was all of these social media platforms. He told the gentleman, a republic, if you can keep it. And we stand on the shoulders of those giants now as we await Senator Ted Cruz, a constitutionalist in his own right, to hold a press conference on school choice on this beautiful June 12th. It's a Thursday. Welcome to the right side of history. We'll go to a quick commercial break right now. Stick with us here as we await this press conference to start momentarily.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk. from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
You've heard how hard it can be to get access to medications like ivermectin, all the things they don't want you to take because they're actually effective and they don't cost all that much, right? You've seen that one before. So it's critical to have something like that on hand for any emergency and to be prepared in a time of crisis. And that's why I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy. They're cutting through the nonsense and they make it easy to get hard to find medications when you need them most. They'll provide the prescription, no hoops to jump through, no waiting room, no hassle, and they deliver it right to your door. All Family Pharma even lets you order in bulk so you can stay ahead of the curve. Head over to allfamilypharmacy.com for 10% off your first order. Again, allfamilypharmacy.com. It's simple. Get the 10% savings. Be prepared.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
Welcome back to RSBN Live. I'm Robert McNeely. Soon we'll have Senator Ted Cruz holding a press conference on school choice, something that's needed across this great country of ours. As you know, President Trump signing that executive order weeks ago with the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, on hand for that. And that was a big, beautiful bill signing that took place where it really called for legislation to act, specifically from Congress, to then give these rights back to the states. And he was flanked by great children who are studying their education right now from K through 12. It will benefit the youngest in this great nation, the great children of ours, as the largest tax cut in history for working and middle-class Americans. This comes in the form of the one big, beautiful bill. Even the demon rats admit the tax policies in the one big, beautiful bill are needed and popular, but they still oppose the bill. And that's something you have to ask them peacefully and patriotically, of course, as we do on the right side of history. Why, Mr. Congressman? Why, Miss Congresswoman? And please don't share your pronouns. We know you like to do that, demon rats. But why would you be against something like this? To be clear, this is what they're opposing. The largest tax cut in history for working and middle-class Americans. Also a 15% tax cut for Americans making between $30,000 and $80,000 per year. So basically most of us in the United States. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Boosting the child tax credit to $2,500 for 40 million Americans. Why not put the next generation first? Historic tax cuts for seniors, no tax on car loan interest for American-made cars, and preserving the double standard deduction for 91% of taxpayers. We'd love to have these demon rats on to talk and defend why they are against this one big, beautiful bill, but they're also opposed to expanding health savings accounts to give Americans greater choice and flexibility in how they spend their money on their health. There's also investment savings accounts to set all newborn American kids on the path to financial security from the very beginning. and also increasing the death tax exemption for 2 million family farms. Failing to extend the Trump tax cuts alone would stick Americans with the largest tax hike in American history. So if you are represented by a demon rat, please reach out to them and ask their office. And of course, be nice to those working, their staff. They have to deal with the people they are employed under and why they make the decisions they do. But perhaps it's a good question for Speaker, or excuse me, I don't want him to be Speaker. It could happen if you don't vote in 2026. Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, he wants to be Speaker, and he'd be a terrible Speaker of the House. But why, Mr. Jeffries, do you push all of your members to not have a conscience of their own? Mike Johnson works well with everybody. He has to reach out to everyone in his caucus, in his conference, to help build a coalition to fight for the mandates that people put into place on November 5th of last year. And President Trump even addressed this today when asked by a wonderful colleague in the media at the White House, and I mean that sincerely. He's a dear friend of mine, asking the question, the media said that you're a king. What do you think about that, Mr. President? And he said, if I was a king, why would I reach out to House Speaker Mike Johnson on all of this good legislation? Why would I help him whip those votes needed in the House? How about Majority Leader Senator John Thune doing an extraordinary job in the United States Senate? Both men doing the impossible with slim majorities to get the great legislative side of President Trump's agenda across the board. As President Trump put it, if I was a king, I would just say, do what I say because I was king. That's not the case. We live in a constitutional republic. We have 3 co-equal branches of government. So when you hear the Looney Tune globalist left-wing fake news legacy media types out there saying that he's a dictator and he's a king and coming up with these crazy terms and saying that Saturday is actually the celebration of some kingdom, no, nothing could be further from the truth. Each and every day, this man puts it all on the line to make America great again. And you don't have to agree with him 24/7, 365. But there's that amount of respect of what he's trying to accomplish on a daily basis and what he has accomplished over the course of not only his first term, but now 100 plus days into the second term, moving at a breakneck pace with an incredible cabinet, a group of subject matter experts unlike any other, who have those open dialogues, who have those appropriate disagreements in order to make America great again. That's what they're working on. That's what they want to do for you, the American people. And that's why we have 50 big wins in this one big, beautiful bill as we await Senator Ted Cruz to hold a press conference on school choice and the upcoming legislation and how everything's going from a congressional side of things, because we would love to see here on the network an end to the Department of Education. That's what Linda McMahon has been tasked with. By the time it hits our 250th birthday, 1 year from now on the 4th of July, 2026, it would be nice to see each and every state having their own sovereignty in regards to education policies, because we know the states and localities run it better than the federal government. 50 wins in the one big beautiful bill. Number one, it delivers the largest tax cut in American history. As we were breaking down earlier, this means an extra $5,000 in Americans' pockets with a double-digit % decrease to their tax bills. Americans earning between that $30,000 to $80,000 mark, that's most of us, will pay around 15% less in taxes. A massive victory. Number two, it makes the Trump tax cuts permanent, preventing the largest tax increase ever. If the bill does not pass, Americans will see the largest tax increases in history. This raises Americans' take-home pay by as much as $13,300 and wages by as much as $11,600. It reverses the spending curse, the plague that has fallen upon the federal city of Washington, D.C. The bill delivers the largest deficit reduction in nearly 30 years with $1.6 trillion in mandatory savings, the largest single reduction in mandatory spending in our country's history. This delivers no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. This makes good on two of President Trump's cornerstone campaign promises, which will benefit hardworking Americans where they need it the most, their paychecks. This provides historic tax cuts for seniors. It also finishes President Trump's border wall and brings much needed pay increases to those fighting so hard to not only build the wall, but to protect it and to protect you, in turn, the American people. As a result, 701 miles of primary wall, 900 miles of river barriers, 629 miles of secondary barriers, and 141 miles of vehicle and pedestrian barriers will be constructed. This also boosts Border Patrol and ICE agents on the front lines with the largest border security investment in American history. This means funding to hire 10,000 new ICE personnel, 5,000 new customs officers, and 3,000 new Border Patrol agents to detain and deport at least 1 million illegal immigrants annually. Now, this is so important because we, at least on the books, know of 21 million plus that came over the border during the Autopen's tenure. And look at the damage and the hell it brought to countless American families in the form of fentanyl, in the form of rapes and murders, all preventable crime that should not have happened in the first place. And it's just amazing to me because I've seen some ridiculous things on social media, things by Katy Perry. She's a crappy singer to begin with, but then to add the fact that she would share things like, oh, remember this American nation, California's land was stolen. It's just such nonsense to go out there and promote attacking police officers, whether they be federal law enforcement from ICE to the FBI to your state and local authorities. It's anarchy. It's disgusting. And we're not going to fall for that so-called summer of love, which was really a summer of hate post George Floyd and all of the riots from Black Lives Matter and their communist associates, all funded by maniacs like George Soros. We just speak truth here at the network. It's that simple. This is not right or left. It's just common sense. It's advocating for positive populism. It's advocating for the defense of the family. Because at the end of the day, if you've seen that meme, what the left wants to destroy, the far left communists that are out there, they want to destroy the family, the American flag, and the fact that you enjoy going to church, that you enjoy going to your gym, that you enjoy serving on your school board and your local city councils. And that's where the change happens. It's by defending your family, being the local church. That's what we mean by this at the network. You are the local church outside of that specific building that you might worship on Saturdays or Sundays. But it's first in your family and what you do to serve one another. And then as you go out into the world, how can you make it a better place? A great way to start is by standing up to the anarchists and by standing up to the Hollywood perverts and the so-called elites that want to tell you how to run your lives. They're losers. And at the end of the day, you proved that on November 5th of last year when you sent President Donald Trump back to the White House. Just to get off my soapbox for a moment, number 10, this protects with a big, bold, beautiful bill Medicaid for Americans who truly need it. This bill eliminates waste, fraud, and abuse by ending benefits for at least 1.4 million illegal immigrants who are gaming the system. This also implements popular work requirements for able-bodied Americans receiving taxpayer-funded benefits through common sense Clinton-era work and volunteer education and training requirements. And I'm laughing because remember 1995, good old Al Gore right behind President Clinton, as Slick Willie said to the Congress, we are a nation of immigrants, but we're also a nation of laws. And you saw both sides of the chamber standing up and clapping. What the hell happened in 30 years to the Demon Rat Party? And we saw that climate maniac Al Gore right behind him standing up for his president. They were also the ones who pushed through welfare reform. But for some reason now, the far left would like you to think that able-bodied people should be at home playing Nintendo games and sitting in their parents' basement. Well, you have common sense. That's why you watch this beautiful network. As I think we could go there live now. Senator Ted Cruz speaking with Representative Owens and many more. Let's toss it there live now to Washington, D.C.
Have long believed is the civil rights issue of the 21st century. Every single child in America deserves the right to have an access to an excellent education. And that is regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of wealth, regardless of zip code. The future of our kids and the future of our country depends upon kids being able to get a great education. If we fail our kids and they don't get a great education, we know their future is bleak. But if kids learn and excel and get a fantastic education, their ability to provide for their family, their ability to succeed in business, their ability to have a bright future is dramatically different. I've spent over 30 years fighting for school choice. In Texas this year, the state legislature passed the biggest and boldest school choice program in the entire country. Enormously impactful. That was a result of decades of hard work. And let me say to all the moms and dads, to all the students here, that was decades of your hard work in the state legislature demanding that children in Texas deserve access to a quality education. We're here today because as part of this one big, beautiful bill, the House of Representatives has included a tax provision. The Senate is going to include that same tax provision that gives a tax credit to individuals who are contributing to scholarship granting organizations in the states. Our tax code has enormous impacts throughout society. You look at other aspects of the tax code, things like the R&D tax credit. We want more research and development in the United States because it generates and produces jobs. We have an R&D tax credit, which incentivizes that R&D. You look at things like the child tax credit, which we provide in the tax code right now because being a mom and dad is difficult and it's expensive and you need relief. Well, this provision now, much like those, is designed, just like the R&D tax credit, to give an incentive for contributions to scholarship granting organizations because those scholarships have a profound impact on the next generation of Americans. I want to commend the men and women up here for working so hard to make this a reality. We are very close to passing the one big beautiful bill, which is going to have positive impacts throughout the country, but this change in tax law will be absolutely profound for families and for kids in need. With that, I recognize my friend and colleague, Senator Bill Cassidy.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. I am so proud with my colleagues to have offered this bill, using tax provisions to benefit parents. How positive can that be? Let me start off, I'm a big believer in the power of education. Let me start off with my personal story, and I may even get emotional. My mom was born to a poor South Carolina family, tenant farmers, and she had to miss a whole year of school because she didn't have shoes. And the family was embarrassed to send her to school without shoes. And she went to some college classes as an interest, but never graduated from college. My dad neither did. But they made sure that, by golly, their kid was going to get educated. And against my will, I was educated. And along the way, I went to medical school. Along the way, became a gastroenterologist, and now have the privilege of representing the great state of Louisiana in the United States Senate. That is the power of education, elevating people out of poverty to whatever their vision is. Now, sometimes those families are at a place where the education offered is not optimal. It's not going to meet their child's need. My wife's got 4 public charter schools for children with dyslexia. 20% of us in this room are dyslexic. Very few schools actually adequately address dyslexia. Can we use the tax provisions in this bill to benefit that family? It is an absolute yes. I join Senator Cruz in thanking you for your advocacy. You telling your personal story is why this sort of thing can happen. The Educational Choice for Children's Act, or ECHA, and I am privileged to be the sponsor in the Senate, will use those tax incentives. We want kids to succeed. President Trump wants kids to succeed. And it provides, as Ted said, an incentive for someone to put money into a scholarship fund. By the way, if you're in a state that just frowns upon that, wants to trap kids in schools which aren't working well, there's a way to bypass that, Governor, and make sure that this money is still available. And that's an incredibly positive thing. This is about the American dream. And this is about the best avenue to achieve it, the power of education. And I thank my colleagues and I thank you for coming up with this provision, this tax provision that helps families realize that American dream. Thank you. Burgess.
Next, Representative Burgess Owens.
Well, thank you guys. You know, Ted and I were on the phone the other day, and he made a point that I've also believed in. You know, we can do great things today, guys. We can achieve a lot of the goals we have, but what will be remembered in the next 40 to 50, 60 years will not what we do today. It's not what we're doing in terms of making a lifestyle, not being in Congress, not whatever. It is a legacy of education, of kids that are smart, that are productive, that are hopeful, because we gave them an opportunity to get the education they needed. Ignorant free can never be was our founders' concept, because they understood that without education, we have no chance. The fact that we have 1636 was when Harvard was first brought on board. Why? Because we believed in education. My 1960 segregated community believed in education. We felt that, but through education, you can command respect, not ask or pray for it. You can command respect. And what was the result of that? This is something I want you guys to all remember, because you might not hear this anyplace else. From the 1940s to 1960s, was a black community that led our country to growth middle class. The black community led our country, men matriculating from college, men committed to marriage, and percentage entrepreneurs, because of education was our gateway to get out. What's happening since we put education on the back doorstep? 2017, 75% of black boys in the state of California could not read and write. 2024, 70% of our kids, 8th graders, cannot read and write. That's not our pathway, guys. President Trump made a promise when he ran for election. He says, we're going to push the Marxists back 30 years. The vaccine to give us a healthy economy, a healthy American culture, is education. Real quick, I have with me my granddaughter, Chloe. She's in just for a day. Over lunch, we were talking about what she's going to be doing during the summer. She wants to be a physician. We talked about her taking online courses at her own pace so she can still enjoy her summer, but get ready for an internship. Every parent should have that same conversation. Not just those who live in the right state, the right district, and have the right zip code. Every kid should have that. The big, beautiful bill is all about one thing, my friends, to build a more perfect union. And that more perfect union begins with us investing in our children. Our return investment will be very simply this: kids that will run circles around us. And parents and grandparents will be so proud that we were part of that process. So I want to thank you, my friends. This is a window that we've been waiting for a long time. Again, 30 years? For me, forever, realizing that we're losing our kids because they're not getting educated. Let's make this happen. I want to thank my colleagues. I want to thank you. Americans will look back and thank every single one of you for the chapter you are now making happen by giving our kids this great opportunity. So let's make it go, guys. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Representative Byron Donalds.
Senator Cruz, thank you so much for hosting us here. Senator Cassidy, I know he had to leave. Look, let's get right to it. School choice is the civil rights issue of our time right now. we have a responsibility here in Washington to do for parents all across America what they want to help for their children. Give them the opportunity to let their children succeed. Give them the opportunity to let their children rise. In the state of Florida, we were one of the pioneer states for school choice. And we had battles with the Democrats over it for decades. But what has happened to the children of Florida is they are rising and they are achieving because their parents are at the head of the table. They are the ones making the decisions about the academic institutions that their children go to. And it is actually the best policy in the lives of all children, white or black, rich or poor. When parents are empowered to make decisions and empowered with the resources to make those decisions, their children thrive, their children flourish. In our country, we have valued funding the education of children. And for more than 100 years, the model in America has been only through the public school system. And there was a time, more than 100 years ago, where that is the system that did make sense, but not today. Parents have more information than they've ever had. They have it at their fingertips every second of the day. And what we should be doing is making sure that, yes, education is funded. But in the way that America is going to be going into the future, the way you do that is by empowering parents. ECCA empowers parents. It gives them the flexibility and the economic power to find the institution that suits the interests of their children the best. We have to make sure that parents are the ones who have the power in their hands, have the ability to make the choices in their hands, because they are doing the thing that nobody up here on Capitol Hill can do, that nobody in state governments, to be blunt, can do. They know their child. They know their skill sets. They know their gifts. They know their bents, and they are going to put their children first. We have a responsibility to meet that challenge and allow parents to be at the head of the table. This policy gives them that ability to do that. And for the first time in American history, we will be telling parents all across America, whether they're in a red state or whether they're in a blue state, that the choice is theirs and that the economic power is theirs. So I would challenge my colleagues in the House and in the Senate, let's make sure we strengthen the provisions of ECCA. Let's make sure parents have multiple years, at least 10 years. So that they can actually go through the process and really find out the best environment for their children. And as we continue to compete globally with other countries, our children have to be ready to meet the challenge of the future. And the only way we're really going to be able to achieve that is getting out of the one-size-fits-all model of public education. The time is now. We can get it done. We have the vehicle in one big, beautiful bill to get it done. I would really call on my colleagues, both in House and Senate. Let's step up to the plate. Let's strengthen the ECCA even more so that parents have every opportunity to help their children succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Representative Jim Jordan. Thank you, Senator. First institution the good Lord put together wasn't the church, wasn't the state. It was moms and dads and kids. Frankly, the strength of that institution, I think, determines the strength of our entire culture. Byron is exactly right. This legislation empowers moms and dads, not the government. It gives the choice to parents, not bureaucrats. I remember we debated this in Ohio 30 years ago, first school choice program we did in Cleveland. People say, oh, Jim, you think some single mom in welfare who maybe didn't graduate herself from high school can make a decision about where her son or daughter can go to school over the bureaucrats in the Department of Education or in the State Department? I said, yes, I do. I sure do. At least they know the kid's name, right? They care more about that individual than anyone else. Of course we want to empower them. That is what this legislation does, empowering moms. I've said all along, when we get into politics and recruiting candidates and everything else, I said, tell me where you stand on school choice. If they're good on school choice, they're good on every other issue. You think moms and dads are best equipped to pick where their kids go to school, you're going to be good on tax cuts because you want moms and dads to have more of their money to go after their goals and dreams and help their kids. That is the defining issue. You want someone good to run for office, find out where they are on school choice. And if they're therefore empowering parents, they're going to be good. They're going to be good. And this legislation does. You know why the left hates it? Because it doesn't empower government. They don't like, I tell people the big, beautiful bill is a good bill, and you know it's a good bill because the left hates it. Because it gives parents more of their money to chase after their goals and dreams, gives them the choice to pick where their kid goes to school. Imagine that.
Left can't have that. No, no, no. It's all about empowering government. This is good. And as the senator said, this is the issue because it determines everything else. If you get this one, you get all the other things. So I appreciate the work that so many of these guys, Burgess has been working, Tim chairs the committee, all the folks who've worked on this, and all of you. You're out there fighting it every day. Like, God bless you all. This is good. And if we get this done, this will be big for our country, for our great country. I now recognize the chairman of the Education Committee, Mr. Wahlberg, and he's a great guy, even though he's from Michigan.
Go Blue. Jim, thank you, even though you're from Ohio State. It happens that we find people understand reality wherever it might be. Back in 1984, my wife and I were threatened with going to jail. But being a member of the state legislature and serving on the Education Committee in the House at that time, they figured that wouldn't be the best focal point to have a member of the legislature in jail for what? For choosing to educate their children by homeschooling them. Our state had walked away from dealing appropriately with parents and with students in educating kids in key areas. And so ultimately, my wife and I, who were both educated in the public school system of Chicago, ultimately decided that we were going to take charge of our kids and educate them. It destroyed their lives. My oldest son was nominated for a Pulitzer as an investigative reporter at the Chicago Tribune for 20 years, came in runner-up for a Pulitzer. So I must have been a terrible composition teacher for him. My daughter became a dental hygienist, ultimately went to Uganda and ministered there in Uganda for almost 20 years. A total failure because of her parents making choice in education. I spent many years working with Betsy DeVos, trying to get Michigan to understand the value of choice, that we would not destroy education, we would enhance education. We'd spur the public schools on to compete, as well as the private schools, the religious schools, and others. That's what you folks are motivating us to do. And as chairman of the Education and Workforce Committee, I understand without an educated workforce, we don't have a workforce. Without parents, children, students, and educators being encouraged in our society, we will not achieve what we need to stay ahead of the rest of the competition in the world for good, and that's what America is all about. I'm privileged to have a vice chair like Burgess on my committee. We are passionate about choice in education, and ECCA is that first step. Sadly, in Michigan, the Democrat-controlled state legislature put through a constitutional amendment that takes away the opportunity for choice. Well, we're going to find ways around it. We're not going to give up. And I think it's going to come from other states that will use ECCA and anything else we can do to enhance it to be a competitive force for Michigan and Michigan's parents, Michigan's citizens, Michigan's educators, saying ultimately, it was wrong what we did. We've got to turn that over and give choice to parents who love their kids, who want the best for their kids, who want their communities to grow and achieve, who want their educational institutions to be valuable to the future of this country. They'll finally say, we've had enough. We're going to change it around as well and be like other states like Florida and say, we're going to trust our parents to make those good choices. And frankly, this is a start. And so I thank God for the opportunity that we have here and now. Let's not mess it up. Let's move forward with smiles on our faces. We don't have to be the mean class. That's the teachers union. They're the ones that are angry. We're the ones that are motivated, passionate, and love our people enough to say we'll do what it takes. God bless us all. And I turn it over now to Walter Blanks, Jr. Walter, thanks for your effort.
Yes, sir. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say this before I begin, but OH, thank you, Tara. Thank you. Oh, come on now. Come on. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Walter Blanks Jr., and I am a spokesperson for the American Federation for Children. And when I was in the 6th grade, my principal told my mother to just wait 5 years for them to have the school turned around. Imagine that. 5 years. My mother looked at him straight in the eye and said, in 5 years, Walter will either be in jail or in a body bag. And we don't have time for either of those. Thanks to the Ohio School Choice Program, neither of those things happened. Instead of being limited by circumstances, I was given a lifeline. That lifeline led me to the White House, where I had the opportunity to sit next to President Trump and share my story and share my experiences and ultimately thank him for his support now bringing school choice to every single state. No longer was I surrounded by poverty, crime, and low expectations. I genuinely believed that my future was mine to shape. School choice didn't just pay tuition. It opened the door that had been locked for generations in my family. I went on to graduate both high school and college, fully understanding that I was one of the lucky ones because I lived in Ohio and we had school choice. Now, I stand before you not as an exception, but as living proof what happens when education freedom is available to families who are desperate for a way out. Now, Congress, this is your moment. Include the school choice tax credit in the reconciliation package and do it now. Get school choice to President Trump's desk and give him a chance to enact his education agenda. He supports school choice along with the vast majority of Americans. To the champions who have stood with us, thank you, but just know that this fight is far from over. And to those standing in the way, you are out of excuses and you are out of time. You're welcome to join us in opening the door. Otherwise, we ask that you step aside as we continue to fight for children across America. And to every single family still waiting for that lifeline, we hear you, we see you, and we will never stop fighting for you, but more importantly, we will never back down. We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to bring school choice to every single state in the country. And I believe that's a cause worth fighting for because I lived it firsthand. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Walter. And now, Tara Myers from AFC.
Thank you. 25 years ago, I stood before Ohio State Legislature asking them to provide alternative options for my son, Samuel. Samuel's here with me today. Go ahead and stand up and be recognized. Samuel was born with Down syndrome. Thank you. Samuel was born with Down syndrome and has multiple disabilities, and he required an IEP for his education. When he was ready to start school, I was told to go home, take the 6.5-hour break, and let them do what they do. I quickly found out that they didn't plan on educating Samuel to his abilities. They planned on babysitting him, and Samuel did not need a babysitter. He needed an education. I did not need a break. I needed options to make it happen. When our district offered, what they offered was a classroom with coloring books and crayons and a jungle gym. What school choice offered for Samuel was appropriate curriculum, college classes, and a career. Ultimately, it allowed him the opportunity to then sit across the table from the President of the United States and share his school choice story. Our president supports educational freedom, and I had the great honor of thanking him in the 2020 RNC as a speaker. Today, other mothers like me with students like Samuel need options too. Samuel is here today with his friends, Representative Jim Jordan, who stood beside us in the state of Ohio while we worked to pass the John Peterson Special Needs Scholarship, as well as Senator Ted Cruz, who's worked with us since 2019 to help bring educational freedom to all students in our nation, and we thank you all. Now, Congress has a chance to bring school choice to every state in our nation by producing a strong choice tax scholarship. Parents of children with special needs do not desire more of the same one-size-fits-all option. Parents desire education freedom, which is the ability to choose the best programs, resources, and teachers that will meet the specific needs of their children. Parents want options. They want to collaborate with school choices to be able to provide what is best. And when I was able to choose the school of opportunity for my son, I was able to drive the education for him, make that IEP work to the best interest and best abilities of Samuel. We have students across this nation who cannot read and write at grade level. We have students that are struggling to do basic math. We have a crisis on our hands, and quite frankly, the house is burning down. Today, I am asking Congress to put out the fire and let parents take their rightful role in directing their children's education. I am joined by others who have been recipients of robust change in education freedom. School choice opened the doors of opportunity for Samuel and helped him become who he is today. I am asking on behalf of all the other Samuels in this nation to pass the most substantial federal tax credit. And as the original mom on a mission, I ask, why would anyone not want to provide the options for parents to choose the very best education for their children? Thank you so much.
With that, we're now happy to take questions.
Senator, as we've seen public schools continue to fail students, many parents have decided to send their kids to Catholic schools. We've seen an increase in the number of Catholic schools. Specifically, how will this help parents in Catholic schools?
Well, this puts parents in the driver's seat. The person who knows best what is right for your child is mom and dad. And this empowers parents to make the best choices. You know, listening to Tara's story, it reminds me back in 2017 when we passed the last big Trump tax cut. I was the author then of legislation that expanded College 529 savings plans to include K through 12 education. It is to date the most far-reaching federal school choice legislation that has ever passed. In that bill, we had Senate Democrats object to that bill, and we argued in front of the parliamentarian, and they succeeded in cutting out of the bill homeschoolers and cutting out of the bill people with disabilities. And the argument that the Democrats made to the parliamentarian is people will really like these provisions. If we pass them, it'll make a big difference for people. Well, that's exactly right. This is all about empowering parents. And some parents will make some decisions, other parents will make other decisions. This is designed not to be prescriptive. It is a tax credit that gets out of the way and lets the parents make the decisions. But I will say one thing, you've got veterans of the battle for school choice up here, and we know now, 30 years ago when Ohio began pioneering school choice, it was a theory then. It was an idea that economists had put out, but it hadn't been applied many places. We now have about 30 jurisdictions across the country that have implemented school choice. We know what the result is now. We know that when school choice is offered, that the children and parents who make a choice to go to a different school, that their educational results go up, that their reading scores go up, that their math scores go up, that their high school graduation rates go up, that their college admissions rates go up. But we also know what happens to those students who stay in the public school, which is we now know that competition is good and that when choice is introduced, the public school gets better. Choice is about giving kids options, but it's also about improving the public schools, and we know that now as a factual matter across the country. Yeah.
The language in the Senate bill, will it mimic what's in the House, Becca?
That is still being negotiated, but I expect the baseline to be similar. The exact terms may be a little bit different. So that claim is empirically false. 30 years ago, when the fight for school choice started, that was the argument that teachers union bosses use, is they say if you implement choice, it will destroy the public school. we now know as a factual matter that is incorrect. Take a look at the state of Florida, where public schools got better in response to choice. Take a look at the state of Ohio, where public schools got better in response to choice. Teacher union bosses spend millions of dollars trying to defeat any educational options for kids. An old teacher union boss, when asked, "Why don't you fight for kids?" his response was, "Kids don't pay union dues." Well, I got to tell you, we have an obligation to fight for our kids. And if you look at the kids who are most impacted by failing schools, it disproportionately impacts the African American community and the Hispanic community in this country. Many African American kids and Hispanic kids are trapped in failing schools, and they desperately want better options. Look, I think for me, of my dad when he came to Texas. My dad came to Texas as an 18-year-old kid, an immigrant from Cuba who couldn't speak English, who had $100 in his underwear. By the way, kids, don't put money in your underwear. It's kind of nasty. And he got a job washing dishes. He made 50 cents an hour. But he was also admitted to go to the University of Texas. And he was able to get an education. He was able then to graduate and get a job. And he was able then to become a small business owner. Today, my dad is a pastor. He's 86 years old and can run circles around anyone in this room, certainly me. Maybe not Burgess, but anyone else. That's what education does. It gives you the American dream. And so the attacks against this are all motivated by protecting money for adults at the expense of the kids. And I will say, for every member of Congress who votes no on school choice, you should ask yourself how you look in the eyes of the kids that you're supposed to be representing, that you're supposed to be fighting for. Your vote shouldn't be for sale. You should be committed to making a real difference. And I want to give Burgess a chance to comment as well.
I'll just say this, guys. What's made our country the greatest in the history of mankind is the middle class. And the middle class is powered by business owners who go out and understand what return on investment is all about. The greatest return on investment we can give our country is a legacy of kids who love our country. We're at a crossroad right now. It's important for us to realize there are people who care for our kids, and there are people who love our kids being hopeless. It is 2017, 75% of the black boys in the state of California could not read and write. Now, I want that to sink in, because no big deal was made of it in 2017. Right now, we have Baltimore, districts in Baltimore and Maryland, and Baltimore and D.C., zero proficiency in math. They're not going to be part of any conversation about the Golden Dome, about freedom. This is our moment. And we need to understand we have people who love our country, and we do that by giving us a legacy of good kids and people who hate our society. They hate family, free market, education. They hate it. And so I would say I'll join with my friend Ted Cruz. For those who vote and wonder, ask yourself, how would you vote if your kid was in a district that nobody knew how to read, write, and think? How about that? Let's put a little empathy in this. They would run to the front of the line to make sure their kid got the options and the freedom they needed. So this is our moment, my friends. This is it. Keep it up. Let's look back and say we were there to our kids, our grandkids, and fortunate enough, our great-grandkids. We were there when our country was going over the edge. We brought it back and created the greatest, smartest, most optimistic kids in the history of mankind. And that's what we have to do with competition in the educational environment. So I can't say enough. Senator, thank you. Thank you for your long fight. And this is our moment, guys, my friends. Appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Good to see you.
An inspiring press conference led by Senator Cruz there, Representative Owens. You had Senator Bill Cassidy, also Representative Jim Jordan, among others, advocating for independence, liberty, school choice, and they're getting tough on the communists, calling them out. Anyone who would be opposed to school choice, They're opposed to the American ethos, the American experiment. Nothing could be further from the truth, because these far left demon rats, they truly do hate your ability to make decisions on your own. But thank God we have senators and congressmen fighting that good fight, and for years now, to bring school choice to you, the American people. And thank you to Senator Bill Cassidy, especially of Louisiana, that heartfelt personal story of his educational upbringing, and amongst many others, sharing literally their hearts on their sleeves, talking about how education really is the game changer in this nation. And it's so true for the demon rat left. They want it to be publicly funded, so much so that it's the union bosses, not you, the American people, making decisions for your own children, for the students in your family, and in turn harming their education. No one has ever said, oh my goodness, because I made a decision myself on education, I somehow did not reap the rewards. So it's good to have great patriotic fighters led by Senator Ted Cruz, Jim Jordan, Burgess Owens, among many others there on hand to fight for school choice. Thank you to All Family Pharmacy. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN now through June 30th, code RSBN20. Scan that QR code now. Pay less for prescription meds from ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, methylene blue, and 200 essential medications, including the emergency medical kits and antibiotics as well for you. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Colonial Metals Group, gold and silver, something precious to have after you take care of your health, take care of your finances, your retirement. Judge Janine Pirro, among other patriots, fighting for you with this great group. Scan the QR code now. Protect your IRA or 401k with gold and silver. Tangible metals, 100% tax-free, because the Chinese Communist Party, they fight with lawfare and warfare against Taiwan. They try to buy up our big, beautiful farmland next to military installations and try to disturb societies with Confucius institutes. So what does that mean for your retirement? Protect everything that you've fought hard for. Gold and silver, the way to go. freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Receive that free gold guide in 2025 to review those no obligation options. Scan that QR code now. Thank you to Colonial Metals Group, and be sure to tune in tomorrow for a great interview with their spokesman, which we'll be having on most weeks here. Get all America First updates and exclusive offers at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter for great writers, as well as our broadcast right here on the right side of history. And tune in roughly an hour and a half or so, the debut show of The Voice of Reason, starring yours truly, Robert McNeely, as we dive into punchlines, politics, a dash of Western charm, and also everything that is affecting the new media, your government inside and outside of the Beltway. It's all about common sense, clarity. We will be unafraid to tackle the big issues of the day. The Voice of Reason with Robert McNeely, every Thursday evening in the prime time, 5 o'clock Eastern tonight. So be sure to tune in this afternoon and evening. And after that, we'll have some even more primetime coverage of the congressional picnic. So you will not want to miss Thursday Night in America with Right Side Broadcasting Network in the prime time. Well, stick with us for that, and we'll see you momentarily here as I sign off. Thank you for joining us today, this beautiful afternoon on Thursday, June 12th, for a press conference very important to you and yours on school choice. Thank you to Senator Ted Cruz and the congressman leading this charge against the far left. Get all America First updates and exclusive offers at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. For all of my colleagues here on the right side of history, I'm Robert McNeely. We'll see you soon.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
You've heard how hard it can be to get access to medications like ivermectin, all the things they don't want you to take because they're actually effective and they don't cost all that much, right? You've seen that one before. So it's critical to have something like that on hand for any emergency and to be prepared in a time of crisis. And that's why I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy. They're cutting through the nonsense and they make it easy to get hard to find medications when you need them most. They'll provide the prescription, no hoops to jump through, no waiting room, no hassle, and they deliver it right to your door. All Family Pharma even lets you order in bulk so you can stay ahead of the curve. Head over to allfamilypharmacy.com for 10% off your first order. Again, allfamilypharmacy.com. It's simple. Get the 10% savings. Be prepared.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.